Welcome to Peachtree Injury Talk with Attorney Jordan Jewkes.
Hello and welcome to the Peachtree Injury Talk with Attorney Jordan Jewkes. I'm your host, Kevin Rosenquist, and today we're diving into the essentials you need to know about personal injury law in Georgia. Jordan, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Kevin. We appreciate it.
So tell me, what interested you in practicing personal injury law? Why do you feel these cases are important?
Gosh, let me start back in my background a little bit. I came out of law school and joined an insurance defense firm in Atlanta. You know, one of the firms that it's located in the huge, high rise up in Atlanta, and thought that's what I wanted to do, work for the insurance company, and had a decent salary and was sort of checking a lot of the boxes. But I realized shortly into that part of my career that the insurance companies really didn't care about the people who got injured. And in fact, it was their really pattern and policy to minimize the injuries and to not compensate the people who have been legitimately injured. And we really didn't see like fake claims on the insurance side. Every claim, it seemed to be people were injured. And so at some point I realized, this doesn't align with my sort of personal compass, my personal moral compass. And so I switched to representing people who've been injured. And I really like it. And the best part about it, to be 100% honest, very simply, is you get to help people who've been in a car wreck or injured due to no fault of their own. There's not a ton of options. And so you sometimes have to pursue these. And so there's a great sense of taking someone through this process who's been injured, who doesn't really know where to turn, feels sort of cornered, and helping them not only get better by seeing the best types of doctors you can, but then also getting some type of settlement to make this thing a little bit better for them in their lives. So that's why I like it. You just get to help people day in and day out. It's awesome.
That's interesting because I've heard that sort of sentiment before from other personal injury attorneys who are like, yeah, I was on the other side and I didn't feel good about it. So I switched to the other side. And there's a kind of a theme there as far as that maybe the insurance companies, you just kind of get a sense for they're just looking for their bottom line. And that's, like you said about your moral compass, I think that's really interesting.
Yeah. And certainly the insurance companies and the firms that are their clients, they recruit heavily out of law school, and they tend to recruit, the best types of students. And so it's easy to kind of get sucked into that path and to sort of trust what they're saying. But when you really look at it, the insurance companies don't have the injured party's best interest at heart. And sometimes it's your own insurance company that's fighting you against your injuries. And so, if in a perfect world, you wouldn't need insurance. And in a perfect world, you wouldn't probably need attorneys who do what I do. But unfortunately, that's just not the case. And so you have to have someone there that can advocate for you and help you through that process.
There are a lot of misconceptions about personal injury cases and personal injury attorneys. What are some of the common ones that you hear often?
Yeah, there are a ton of misconceptions out there. And probably one of the most common ones is that you can trust the insurance company. And that is so common in every case. The insurance company, hey, tell me if you're injured. Tell me what happened. And they record those phone calls. And they will 100% use that against you if you are more injured than you think, or if you want to bring a claim that you didn't realize you really had at the beginning, within the first couple of days of the accident. So a lot of people will call us and say, you know what, I didn't want to hire you at the beginning because I felt that I could handle this on my own, and my insurance company said that they would take care of me. And then 2 weeks or 2 months later, they're sitting there saying, you know what, the insurance company, they're starting to not return my phone calls. They're telling me I need to stop treatment. And so that's one of the biggest ones I would say is you really can't trust even your own insurance company. I hate to say that. One of the other ones I would say is probably that a quick settlement isn't necessarily a good settlement. There are some times when a quick settlement is fine and gets the job done, but a quick settlement almost always is going to favor the insurance company. They like to hedge their bets and pay out a little bit of money fast in hopes that your claim doesn't balloon into something very serious for them, and hopefully not, but potentially very serious for you. Most people don't really know the full extent of their injuries at the beginning. And sometimes it takes, several visits to the doctor, maybe even orthopedist or see a specialist before you really know the extent of your injury. And the insurance companies, they don't like that. So they try and, sort of shove a quick settlement down your face sometimes or down your throat. Sure. And that's usually not a good idea.
Do you find that people want to try to handle cases on their own? without an experienced attorney? Like they think they can handle it on their own?
Yeah, I mean, we find that all the time, and that's not a bad thing. And most people, especially where we're at here in Atlanta, on the south side of Atlanta, especially, people do try and do it on their own. And we put out a lot of advice and content and videos to try and help people through that process if they want. But truly, the insurance company wants you to do that. Unless you really have a lot of experience and really know what you're doing and put some research into it, it's pretty difficult to do. And really, truly, anyone who has any type of significant injury really needs to hire a competent attorney, because going up against the machine of the insurance company and all the defenses, speed bumps that they throw out there, and really, frankly, traps, it just becomes really difficult.
And if you're an average person that has a lot of experience in this, you need to look at what's going on in your own life that's causing you to keep doing this.
Yeah, if you have a lot of experience, that means you're really unlucky when it comes to driving around a car or something like that.
Yeah, don't walk through construction sites or anything. So walk me through a typical personal injury case. Where does it begin and end?
Yeah, great question. So, I mean, a typical injury case, let's call it a car wreck case, because that's probably the majority of what we handle. A car wreck case starts obviously with the impact. And right after that, you need to be getting the medical treatment you need. But the documentation process starts. And that's really the core of what we do and how these cases move along. It's documenting everything from the police report to photos, and then documenting your injuries. And so the life of a personal injury claim is dictated by several factors, but the biggest one is going to be the extent of your injuries and therefore the extent of your medical treatment. And so some people have fairly insignificant injuries where they're done in maybe several weeks or several months. But sometimes if you need surgery or you have a permanent injury, it can take several months, if not several years, or even a lifetime to recover. Mm-hmm. So I mean, every case is different, but generally speaking, 6 months, sometimes a year is a good barometer of how long it might take. But certainly we have some that go longer. There is a 2-year deadline in Georgia. It's called the statute of limitations. And that really kind of dictates whether we have to file a lawsuit to extend the case or extend the claim beyond that 2 years. So sometimes we'll have someone who reached out to us and they're getting treatment. And we file a lawsuit, even though they're not done with their claim, they're not done with their treatment, simply because that 2-year statute of limitations is on us. And if we don't file a lawsuit within that 2-year period, that means potentially we may lose the value or lose the ability to make a claim on them. So, but going back to, I guess, to answer the question, the typical claim is going to be get your treatment you need. And once you're done with the treatment, we gather all the records. We then put everything together in a demand package to the insurance company that cites the law, all the favorable arguments showing your claim and your injuries. And then we negotiate with the insurance company off that demand amount. So again, yeah, that's the typical process.
What are the potential damages recoverable in a personal injury case, specifically in Georgia? Yeah,
and Georgia actually has a fantastic set of laws that allow for a breadth of damages, which is really, really good because not all states do. And so Georgia is actually a pretty good state. If you're going to get injured, if you're going to get hit by a car, Georgia is a good state to have that done in. So,
hang on, I'm going to write that down. All right.
Yeah, right. Georgia, yeah. But in general, without getting too technical, the law in Georgia is going to allow for pain and suffering, of course, and then also payment of your medical bills, and then any future and present lost wages that you might have. And there's some other technical types of damages there, but you want to look at past and present and future pain and suffering, past medical bills, and potential future medical bills. So if the doctor says, look, Kevin, you're not going to get better until you have this type of surgery. And you say, well, look, Jordan, maybe not this month, maybe not the next, but maybe in a year or so I'll get that. Well, we can get the value of what that surgery is going to cost and get the insurance company to pay for that. Okay. And then if you've been out of work, haven't been able to work and can't continue to work, then we go back and gather the documentation to show what your lost wages are. Again, there's some other technicalities there, but that's the basis of it, the main. We call those compensatory damages.
Something I've always wondered is if you get injured and you're in the middle of a case, how do you pay your medical bills while the case is going? That seems like that could be really, really difficult to manage before you get a settlement.
Yeah, and that worries a ton of people, and we get that question all the time. And a lot of people won't even go to an attorney or won't even treat because they're afraid of that.
Yeah.
And so there's a couple ways we can do that. Hopefully you have health insurance. And so we always tell folks, if you have health insurance, by all means use it. That gets a little trickier, and there's some technicalities there. But if you really don't have health insurance, and most people don't have cash on hand to pay upfront medical bills,
right,
there are really good doctors in Georgia who've held themselves out as willing to treat people on a lien, is what we call it. And it's really kind of like on a tab, right? When you go and you get a service, but you can't pay up front, that service provider, in this case, the medical provider or the doctor, will say, well, just pay me once you get your settlement. We've got good relationships with those doctors, most of them, and they're very willing to wait a little bit longer to get paid to make sure that you get a good settlement. So in most cases, we can set you up whatever your injury is, even if you need, surgery, like back surgery or neck surgery. We can usually find a doctor that'll treat you who's got excellent credentials, and we'll just say, hey, we trust the Jewkes Firm, so just pay us out of the settlement proceeds once you're done treating.
That's really cool. So basically, it's because they have trust in you and your firm that they feel confident that they'll get paid in the future.
Yeah, I mean that's a huge part of it. Absolutely.
Yeah. So what are some common mistakes people can make that hurt their personal injury case?
Yeah, I mean, we run into these all the time. There's a lot of common mistakes that'll really damage your claim. And again, we've talked about probably the biggest one is just talking to the insurance too much up front. And so one of the first things we always tell our clients is if you've got an injury due to a car wreck or something else, don't go and tell the insurance company the extent of your injuries. You really can't even know the extent of your injuries until you've seen at least a doctor or two. So just being overly communicative with the insurance company, and really that's just trusting putting your trust in them, because as sure as I sit here, they will use everything you tell them against you. All right. And you may not realize it, but they record all the calls. And one day down the road, they'll say, hey, Kevin, you told us at the scene or the day after that you were fine and your back didn't hurt. You had difficulty sleeping and you realize, my back isn't quite the same. And the doctor says, now you have a herniated disc. And so it's really, really important to not really overshare with the insurance companies. I would tell my clients, you can talk to them about the damage to your vehicle, but I wouldn't talk to them about your injuries. The other thing that I would probably say is that just failing to get treatment. A lot of people here, they say, especially guys, it's always guys that do this that are like, I'm okay. I'm rough and tumble. I'm going to go to work. I'm tough. I'm not going to get what I need. And that's that's a good thing in general in life is working through it. But when you are injured, one of the worst things you can do is put off treatment for 2 or 3 weeks or really 2 or 3 months, because the insurance companies that will be their line through the rest of your case and claim is, well, you didn't treat for 2 or 3 weeks. Well, why are you really injured? You can't really claim you're injured if you didn't treat. And so making sure there's no what we call gaps in treatment is really important. Just be compliant with what the doctor says.
That makes sense. Yeah. And I think, I feel like you're so rattled right off the bat after something like that happens to you that, yeah, you might be full of adrenaline too. And like, you don't feel like your back hurts, but then 2 days later, you're like, oh my God, I can't get out of bed.
Happens all the time. And we've got great over-the-counter medications. We've got, one of the great things to do is to be able, if you've been in a wreck, to have the option to be able to go home and just rest for a couple of days and get in a hot tub or take some salts or whatever. There's nothing wrong with that. Sit in a whirlpool. But really, if you've got a significant injury, sometimes people don't know it for a few days, or they want to put it off. And that's quite normal. Happens all the time. Just because you didn't go from the scene of the wreck to the ER, right, the emergency room, doesn't mean you don't have a significant injury.
Very good point. What sets you guys apart as far as how you handle cases out there in Georgia? So
there's a lot of different law firms out in Georgia, a lot of folks that just want to turn a quick settlement. There's a lot of good attorneys in Georgia as well. I think one thing that we try and I think one thing that makes us a little bit different truly is my initial experience working for the insurance companies on these types of cases. And it sort of gives me a real good look into how they operate, how they analyze cases, and what are the weaknesses and the defenses that they look for in every single case. Because I've been on their side and I can tell this is exactly what you need to do. And if you don't do these, it's going to weaken your case, because I know that's what the insurance company is looking for.
You know that side of things. You know how their minds operate. Yeah, absolutely. And so I think it's that's one thing that quickly sets us apart. I think the other thing, though, is
truly, we try and have a client is our family mentality. We know all of our clients' names. We try and get to know their children's names. We just try and treat our clients like family. And I think to be empathetic or to put ourselves in the shoes of our clients, because it's sometimes hard because we do this every day in and day out. But we have to remember for 99% of our clients, this is the first time they've ever gone through this. They don't want to have to go through it. They don't want to even hire an attorney 99% of the time, but they feel like they're forced to. And so we try and make them feel at ease, return their phone calls, be communicative, just treat them like we would our mother, our father, or sister or brother.
Yeah, that's great. Well, your passion for helping people certainly comes through when you talk about it. So
thanks, Kevin.
Well, thanks for tuning in to the Peachtree Injury Talk with Attorney Jordan Jewkes. For more information or to connect with Jordan, you can visit jewkesfirm.com. That's JEWKES firm.com. And be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments. Hey, Jordan, thanks for being here, man. Great to talk with you.
Thanks, Kevin. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.